Y'all need to take the car. It's on my dresser.
Hi, everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi, Percy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
We greatly appreciate it. Glad Christy was able to hook us up here. We're just going to move our full screen away so that we can see everyone, particularly our esteemed panelists. And we're going to get to you, Percy, and of course you, Mark, but I do want to give a formal welcome to everyone. And thank you guys for joining our Normalizing Black Wealth series in partnership with UBS. All of you guys that are part of this session today are such important people to the entrepreneur ecosystem. UBS specifically has been a great ally for founders and funders who are building the inclusive equity ecosystems. And for that, of course, I'm very grateful at Culture Banks. And for everyone joining us today, please know that you guys are the key to normalizing these conversations around Black wealth, something that I know I've spoken in depth about with all three of our panelists today. And for those of you who may not know me, I'm Corey Hale, the CEO and co-founder of Culture Banks, and we're going to have a super candid discussion around the solutions to building equity and generational wealth as we challenge and rethink our current inclusive capital ecosystems. To kick us off, though, I'd like to start by having Jamie Sears join me. She is the head of community affairs and corporate responsibility for UBS Americas. Hi, Jamie.
Hey, Corey. Thanks for having us.
Well, no, thank you guys so much for your partnership. For our audience, though, today, can you just tell us why the work that you all do around inclusive capital is a primary focus for UBS and how you guys like to elevate entrepreneurs?
Happy to. And I should thank you, Corey, and Culture Bank, obviously, Culture Banks, for your partnership and everyone joining today. I'm really grateful for this opportunity to continue the conversation that we started at the Social Innovation Summit 2 months ago on normalizing Black wealth and Black unicorns. I'm really passionate about this work because we know that ownership is really the pathway to building a life on your own terms, a life filled with choices, and the opportunity to build generational wealth that can drive real lasting and sustainable change. And core to this is capital. We know it plays a major role in determining entrepreneurial starts and successes. And we need to make more progress to ensure that we have a system that works for all. And yeah, UBS is the world's largest global wealth manager. We have a long history of helping entrepreneurs succeed. This is a group that we know well. A large majority of our clients in the Americas are first generation wealth and built their portfolios as business owners. Yet we also know that access to capital is highly unequal. So far in 2020, Crunchbase reported that 2.6% of venture capital has gone to Black and Latinx founders. And sadly, that's actually not too far off from where we've been for years. And funding for female founders has actually hit its lowest quarterly total in 3 years. So we focus on inclusive capital because it's really investors that have an outsized influence on shaping what the future looks like, what products and services get to market, which communities get to benefit. And through the work that we've been doing through Elevating Entrepreneurs, our program to level the playing field for women and for founders of color, it's been through increasing investment readiness and building those critical bridges to capital, which obviously has an impact overall on the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jamie.
No, that's it. I mean, the reason why we're doing all of this is really because the unlocking capital for underrepresented founders means unlocking the potential of more individuals and communities to really fulfill the potential that we know, exists out there.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for giving us that background. And guys, I want to go ahead and jump right into what I know is going to be a very conscious conversation, or as we like to say, it's going to be super woke, around normalizing Black generational wealth through investing. Our esteemed panelists that you can see on your screen right now include Mark Wilkins. who is a private wealth advisor and managing director at UBS. He proudly serves as the executive sponsor for Mosaic, the firm's employee-led diversity organization. And we also have business mogul, hip hop icon, and philanthropist Percy Master P. Miller joining us. Thank you both Percy and Mark for being here today.
Thrilled to be here, absolutely.
All right, great. Percy, I want to go ahead and kick it off with you right here, because creating wealth, as we know, is deeply rooted in owning a business, and you own several of them under No Limit Enterprises. Can you just talk a little bit about how important cultural capital is when it comes to building wealth in our community?
Yes, it's so important that people have to realize, especially people of color, we don't have those opportunities. We grow up in poverty communities, and education is so important because we talk about financial literacy. We're at the bottom of the totem pole, and for me, my thing is to make sure our culture and our people know that by the impacting the community with people that look like us and being able put to put money back into the
Percy,
community.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to jump in here for a second. You just went off camera for a second. Are you able to turn your camera back on? There we go.
Okay. All right. So yeah, what I was saying was it's so important to put money back into the community in our culture with people that look like us, because we're at the bottom of the totem pole when you talk about impacting our community through economic empowerment. And it's sad that we have to change that, because we've been going through this for a long time. You know, people say slavery since 400 years ago. My thing is not to focus on the past, but to focus on the future. We can't change the past, but bringing us together and uniting people of color that understand the importance of this and changing the narrative with a lot of these big companies, these corporations, and giving us those opportunities and diversifying that people of color can handle this type of wealth. When you're talking about creating opportunities and jobs in the community, that's the only way we're going to build generational wealth, is through the next generation. And it got to start with economics. It got to start with banking. It got to start with people recognizing people of our culture is worthy of being in position to hold not only these jobs, but ownership of the business in the communities, building products, building brands, being able to have diversity on the shelving space in these supermarkets, so we can put wealth back into the community, and also to be able to create the next generation of moguls, entrepreneurs. So I mean, it's so important for me, knowing that we have to put money back into our culture, back into our community, so we won't be going through what we're going through now. When you see the injustice, the rioting, I love how we all came together in unity, whether it was blacks, whites, Asian, Latinos. We got to do the same thing in the banking system to empower the communities. When you look at why African Americans, we're burning down our communities when we should be buying back our blocks. So, and it all start with economic empowerment and being able to be a part of building that generational wealth to keep it going, to have the sustainability, because this is the only way it's going to happen, and it's going to happen with educating our culture.
Completely agree. And actually, Mark, I want to bring you in and really kind of pick up on something that Percy said around major businesses and corporations, you know, holding a big part in how we really start to create that generational wealth. And something you and I have talked about specifically around wealth creation and investing not being necessarily the exact same thing. Can you explain why it's important for people to understand the difference between them?
Yeah, so when you think about investing, it can go a lot of ways, right? It can go from investing in the public markets to starting and owning your own company. But the key to wealth creation is through ownership. It is through equity. And in general, it's equity that is going to lift communities out of poverty. Now, getting from where we've been and where we are to where we need to go is not going to be easy. And I think that anybody thinks that says it's going to be easy is kind of sugarcoating it, and that doesn't make any sense. But it's absolutely necessary. It's necessary for our country. It's necessary for our world, for all communities to have an equal opportunity to be successful, for sure.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. I just want to give our audience some quick statistics. I know Jamie touched on it in the opening, but wealth right now, as we know, is an important component of Americans as a society, our economic status. The Peterson Foundation found that among college educated households, right? So these are supposed to be some of the smarter families across the entire country, that white families had a net worth of $360,000. Latinx families had a net worth of $73,000, and Black families came in with a net worth of only $68,000. So Percy, I have to ask you, is it really possible to effectively invest in our culture, in Black culture, when the wealth disparity, and we're talking about trying to build generational wealth, is so great, and these are current numbers?
Yeah, well, the problem is when you look at African Americans, you look at those numbers that you just discussed, we're just starting to begin to understand how to make money. And we don't even know how to spend money. They've been passing down money from descendants, and we're trying to catch up. And I think when you look at it, those statistics, the numbers are way off, because we look at why are we so far behind? We're behind in everything. And when you look at even building credit to be able to go and get loans to get, I mean, if we at the bottom of the totem pole, we're not going to be able to get those loans. We're not educated on how to fill out these applications. And I think it's all preparation. And I also think it's diversifying the portfolios to where we say, a lot of these large companies that we spoke on earlier, I don't care whether the big supermarket companies, the car companies, or whatever, they are preparing to give better jobs to other cultures besides African Americans. Because when you look at the Fortune 500 companies, we only 1% of African American CEOs. So we do not control the narrative of how that wealth is spread around, even on a corporate level. So we have to change that narrative. And I know you talked about where this is coming from the communities, but you got to look at it. If the banking system is not going to even allow us to get a loan, how do we change these numbers? We only change these numbers where we got to start thinking like entrepreneurs. When we go to schools, we have to start educating our kids with economics and banking, because they are learning that at a younger age, or they are passing that down from generation to generation. And we're in last place in the race, but we're sending our kids to prison. They're sending their kids to college. So we have to change that narrative by empowering and employing us. And the only way we're going to do that, we're going to have to start owning and creating some of these bigger brands. So if you look at like Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben, we thought that these products owned by us, but they really not. So they made billions of dollars off of mockery of us when we're not putting products on the shelves that owned by us, to be able to change those numbers, to give people more positions, more opportunities, and more jobs in our culture, to be able to reach those numbers where it's 300 and something thousand. So that shows you, if it's 68,000, most of African Americans communities are living in poverty. So it's unbalanced. So we have to change that by us owning our own companies and being entrepreneurs. So I think that's the first start.
Yes.
Corey, if I could for a second, if I could actually drive home a couple of points that Percy made that I think are absolutely spot on. And the micro level, right? It's us as individuals all becoming better at financial literacy, right? And we all have to take that upon ourselves. Everybody's got to take that upon themselves to enhance their financial literacy. Now, banks, financial institutions, we do have a responsibility to help all communities, Black, brown, and everybody else, get better at financial literacy. But at a micro level, we have to take on that responsibility and get better at that. Along those lines, spending. So, one of the things that drives me absolutely crazy, and it's not Black clients or white clients or anybody, it's kind of everybody. Spending is something that at a personal level, we overdo when we're not really capable of doing it. And so one of the ways to build net worth is to stop the outflow, or at least slow the outflow, and make sure that it's on things that are building wealth, not on things that are disposable, for example. Another thing I want to talk about, sort of at the macro level, are Black and brown communities investable? And the answer is absolutely yes. Again, to Percy's point, we have not been doing that ourselves. There are plenty of athletic shoe companies. There are plenty of fast food companies that absolutely are investing and reaping rewards from investing in Black and brown communities. But those go to the public markets. That's not the same as Black and brown people having ownership and equity in their communities. So I would say, number one, yes, it's absolutely, Black and brown communities are absolutely investable. Another thing I'd point out is, we look at that $68,000 number, or call it $70,000 round number, net worth number as being low. Well, emerging market investment managers are investing in entire emerging markets that don't have net worth, the average net worth anywhere close to that, and reaping strong financial returns from emerging markets. I make the point that I think the greatest emerging market anywhere on the planet is right here at home, and it's generally speaking, 1, 2, 5, 10 miles from any downtown in the United States is an emerging market that is hugely investable, and opportunity abounds for everybody if we do it right.
So one thing I want to say to you guys is, the thing is, when I talked about the education part, that's where the disconnect come in, because even as African Americans, we think the wealth building is what type of money we have or what we make off our job. But the real wealth is stock, taking companies public. We don't even get an opportunity to get to that level. So that's why I'm saying we have to educate minorities, because we're spending money, but we're not making money. We are borrowing money, but we're not lenders. And we have to change that narrative. And my thing is educating our culture and stop and understanding how to create companies, when to sell, why are we getting into business? How long do we hold on? When do we take a company public? Like we're not being taught that. So that's why I say the education part is so important. Even the numbers are low on how much we're making, but when we understand where the real wealth building is coming from, and you look at that, you look at the stock market and see how many African American companies that is being taken public to how many white companies is being taken public. I mean, those numbers are way disconnect. And so we have to change that. I mean, even in the stock market alone, look at how many African Americans that we have in there that say, I'm the guy that's taking these companies public, owned by African American companies. So it's not even 1%. And so that's what I'm saying. That narrative have to be changed, because the diversity part of this in these companies, I mean, even giving the loans, our people don't even understand, because we thinking it's the money, it's the credit. If you don't have relationships and resources with these banks, how are you going to get to that level? And so that's why I'm saying that, we have to hold some of these institutions accountable, saying, if you have people of color that can do the same jobs, that can create the same opportunities, or even ideas, give them an opportunity. So I think that's what this panel is about today, saying, how do we diversify, going to a Walmart saying, put some of these African American products on the shelves. I mean, we'd have made all these other companies rich So let's put some real diversity into this and give some African American, I mean, people that has uh talent outside of sports or entertainment, but in the products, into wanting to put money back into the community, in the cultures. I think we have to start with that. Even in technology, if you look at in Silicon Valley, how many African American uh, people of color that's really coming up with these ideas, but able to hold on to those ideas to be able to take them to the bank and to be able to cash out and put money back into the community. So, I mean, if you look at it, we have more workers as African Americans than we have entrepreneurs and business owners. So, but that's because the financial literacy, just what you're talking about, and it's not just about looking at whether it's African Americans, because I'm looking at that as the whole country in general, our people, and saying that we're just saying that African Americans is underserved in that market. We talk about banking space, we talk about putting product in the stores. We are more consumers than actually creating these contents and being a part of the big wealth built. So to be able to take these company public and to be able to put money back into the community. So that's my thing that I really want to share with everybody on this panel, and even share with the world, saying we have to change that narrative and stop hiding that from our culture, thinking that just because I got this product, the real wealth, me and my partner, James Lindsay, we talk about this all the time. We said, the real wealth is in the stock and taking companies public. But our culture don't understand it. They just want something tangible to hold in their hand and say, oh, this is my product. But knowing when to sell, knowing how to, as an African American, to take a company, to build that stock, to build that generational wealth. And so that's where the gap, those numbers.
It's a huge gap. And the fact that, first of all, African American women actually create more companies. They actually start more companies than any other ethnic group, yet they only receive 0.06%. So that statistic is basically just a flat 0% of our venture capital dollars. It's part of the reason that, we're not seeing them go from Main Street to Wall Street. And I spent quite a bit of time actually on Wall Street in the New York Stock Exchange. And I can tell you, when I was on the floor of the exchange, there was not one company that ever went public that was started, created, currently run by an African American. But I want to bring Mark back into this conversation really quickly, because you once told me that great wealth is created slowly, which is kind of what Percy is talking about, because we don't really have those opportunities. But even if you are able to, it's still a slow churn to really create wealth, and destroyed quickly. Can you elaborate specifically on how that impacts this community's ability to build generational wealth?
Yeah, so one of the things that's absolutely key in building great wealth is delayed gratification. And so if you take Warren Buffett as an example, 95% of his wealth was created after the age of 65. Yeah. And so this gets into some basic maths and some basic compounding, right? Percy, you're the expert on the panel of this. I'm guessing that first million was the hardest. The second million was a lot harder. The first 100 million was the hardest. The second 100 million, a lot harder. But you know what? The first billion is going to be a lot easier than your second billion. And so it is this concept of delayed gratification, and it actually taking time. The grind is not quick. And so there are no quick fixes. I mean, look, there are going to be some people who have some great ideas who are able to take those ideas and monetize them quickly. And we're starting to see a lot more of that within Black and Brown venture capital, both with funds and the GPs, and also, but with a lot of the founders. But for the vast majority of us, of everybody, building wealth is a slow grind, and it's not done overnight. Not done overnight. And Percy, I think you can probably attest to that as well as anybody.
Yeah, well, also, it comes through experience and expertise. I feel like in the African American culture, I'm an expert at money because I know how to make money, lose it, get it back. It's a process. You're gonna fall off the horse. And I tell people all the time, don't be afraid to fail And when you fall forward. I fall with my hands out because I got to get back up and keep going and come up with something else. Don't be afraid to diversify your portfolio, and don't be afraid to prepare yourself for failure.
I think failure is I talk about it all the time, Percy. Whether it's failing a class, whether it's failing in education, whether it's failing in a corporate job or failing as an entrepreneur. If you never fail, you're not trying things that are hard enough for you. Yes. It is absolutely important to fail sometimes to find out where your edge is, to find out what your limits are.
Like you said, it takes you to that next level. So when you look at life, when you feel you got that bad taste in your mouth, you don't want that no more. That's right. And if you made millions and you lost millions, and then now you're going to go to that next level, if you're really passionate and you believe in your business, your brand, and the only way to get to $1 billion, you're going to have to lose millions of dollars, and you're going to have to learn from that. And that's why I think the sustainability is so important. But to be able to sustain, you're going to have to be able to know that this is a marathon. This is not a race. When you talk about building financial wealth, it don't happen overnight. Just like you said, it took Warren Buffett till he got to his 60s to be able to take his business to the next level. And you got to look at this from a realistic standpoint. Everybody is not set to be an entrepreneur, a business person. It's not for everybody. To be an entrepreneur, you're probably going to have to pay other people and feed other people before you feed yourself and your family, because you're waiting for that bigger picture. For me, I went through a lot, but it molded me to know that this is the way that I'm going to be able to feed my families for generations and generations. Even when I'm not here, that's why I work so hard, because I want to take care of the next generation. And being a boss, because everybody say they want to be a boss. There's a difference from being a worker and being a boss. You're gonna lose sleep. You got to put in hours when nobody else. You're gonna be uncomfortable. It's gonna seem like nothing is happening, but it's happening. You got to have vision. You got to be a visionary. I tell people all the time, bosses don't see the mustard seed; they see the tree. And people without vision, they can't see the tree. They only see the mustard seed. So I think this is an opportunity that we have that's once in a lifetime, and you got to take that saying, what do I really want for my family? What do I want for my community? How can I change my community? How can I change the education, the imbalance, the diversity? I need to get out here and make a difference, and I have to hold myself accountable. And my thing is, I want to inspire the next generation, saying, if I could do it, then we can create thousands. We can create, more entrepreneurs, African Americans. I don't only want to put my product on the shelves in these stores. I want to open the doors to where other African American owned companies could have their product on the shelves, and now we can take away some of that poverty. So I feel like the harder you work and the more you believe in your idea, no idea is a whack idea. It's not going to be easy. But what we're doing right now, coming together, discussing this, showing it from each side, from the financial literacy side, showing it, because, even when you get money, you need to educate yourself, because you're going to lose if you just depending on a financial advisor and you know nothing about investing, nothing yourself. Because I know a lot of athletes, they always say they're busy. I'm saying, wait up, the type of money you have, you shouldn't be busy for investing in yourself. You're not going to be able to play sports. You're not going to be able to be an entertainer forever, but you can own a company. You can run a business forever. You could pass that down from generations to your family. So you need to understand banking. You need to understand economics. Take 1 hour a day, 1 hour a week, whatever you have to invest in yourself. You are your best investment. So I feel like with this panel today, I feel like we're going to be able to empower and teach people all around the world to say, you are your best investment. Go for it. Don't sit back and just wait. Don't sit and wait on an investor to tell you what to do. This is your money. You need to educate yourself. Because I tell you all the time, I don't pray for money. I pray for knowledge. I pray for wisdom, because, technology education is changing every day. And then applied knowledge is what's going to get you to the wealth, the real wealth.
Absolutely agree with that. I will put in a plug though for good financial advisors, because the number one role of a good financial advisor is to educate clients. It's not to make decisions for them. In fact, we can't make decisions for them. It is to educate. The other thing I'll throw in there is a plug for Black and Brown financial advisors. You know, I have a big group of people coming behind me that I'm trying to put them on my shoulders and throughout my company and throughout my industry. And, you know, as a community, then supporting Black and Brown financial advisors to help them be successful is only going to add to the ecosystem. But you can extrapolate that. It can be doctors, it can be nurses, it can be certainly business owners, it can be accountants, it can be lawyers. And so it is about building. There's no one simple answer and there's no one simple thing to do, but it is about building an ecosystem, and ecosystems then tend to grow upon themselves and flourish upon themselves. That's what we need to be trying to build our entire ecosystems of success.
Yeah, let me just hop in here real quick because we're getting a little tight on time. And honestly, the chat and the question section has been blowing up. Trust me, first of all, I just want to say to everyone right now, I see all of you guys. I see the participant number keeps going up. I see all your messages. We only have another 7 minutes. I'm not going to be able to get to all of them, but we'll have more sessions, okay, people, because there's obviously a huge interest in this topic. All right, let me just start with the Q&A right here. This is from Monica, and she wants to know, specifically Percy, if you can talk about some of the ventures that you're involved in. I think at the top I mentioned, you know, your company, your umbrella company, No Limit Enterprises, but some of the stuff that you're involved in and that sort of process of really, you know, building a strong portfolio of your own.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I'll show you. I mean, I have my own cereal now. So my whole thing was coming up with products and brands to be able to, as African Americans, saying we've been eating these products our whole life. But, you know, even when you look at the shelving space in meat, the Uncle P rice, the cereal, the grits, the syrup, the pancakes, the potato chips, wrap snacks. I mean, I feel like I've created a product that we've been eating all these years, but we don't control any of it. We don't own any of it. So I want to take the food product, packaged food goods. That's the business that I'm in now. Packaged food goods, to be able to put some diversity on the shelves and to be able to have product into these stores and to be able to give back to the communities that are underserved. We're uneducated. We don't have the proper education, even some of the basic educations that some of the other cultures have to build other successful people in the community and the culture. So, I mean, I'm into the food business now. I think that that's important because a lot of these products, like even right now, we shut down for COVID. When you look at from the noodles to all the other products that I have, I mean, these what we are eating in our homes, but we're not making money off of that to put money back into the community and the culture. So that's what I'm focused on, the grocery stores. I'm like, I want to take over the grocery stores and to be able to put money back into our community.
All right, perfect. Let me get to the next question. Mark, this is for you. This is actually a very interesting question. Jody K wants to know, how else can you actually build wealth if maybe, as something Percy actually referenced earlier, if you're not necessarily interested in being a business owner, because entrepreneurship really isn't for everyone?
Sure, you know, it's a combination of paying down debt, saving, and then investing. And you should think about your wealth in sort of those three buckets. One is super liquid, the income that you make, doing smart things that protect you to have that base. Beyond that, going into sort of liquid markets investments, and that could be as simple as putting money, making sure that you put money in your 401k plan, making sure that you get your company matched, doing things like that. So there are plenty of ways, but it does involve getting started and getting started early. Just back to my Warren Buffett example, you know, the earlier you start and the more disciplined you are about, number one, paying down debt, and then number two, investing, the better off you and your family for generations are going to be down the road.
Yeah, no, perfect. So this next question, thank you, Mark, is actually going to be for both of you all, and it's from Raquel Wilson. And she really wants to make sure when we talk about generational wealth that we're focused on the tools that we can give the young people, right, to help them build, I would essentially say, the mental fortitude around delayed wealth, starting from right now today. So Percy, let me give it to you first. That delayed wealth mindset, how can people start to bring that into the fold of their everyday lives?
Well, I think, just not being afraid to take your kids to the bank with you, not being afraid to, read financial things to your kids, show them your checking account, show them how to use it, talk to them about it. I think the communication is so important because we feel like our kids are too young. I mean, now our kids are online, 3-4 years old. So when you start feeding this information into them, they're gonna remember this, and they're gonna. I mean, for me, my kids are holding on to this stuff at a young age now, which is important. I mean, if we want them to do better than us financially, we want them to be in a better space than us. It starts young. So not being afraid, just like if you teach your kid how to play basketball or baseball or football, just have those conversations with them about financial literacy. And I think it's gonna change. It's gonna change the way they think in the future.
All right.
I think that's spot on. And it comes down to parenting. It comes down to modeling, whether it's your own kids you're parenting or other kids in the community. It is about exposing them to opportunities. And there are very small, slight ways of thinking. My daughter, who will kill me for even mentioning her, but she's at Harvard Business School now. But when she started learning to count, we learned to count 1 billion plus 1 billion equals 2 billion. Right. And it's small things like that, and engaging them in conversations around money, around investing, around what it means to grow and to have wealth. And importantly, the hard work, the grind, and the delayed gratification that it takes to get there.
It's not going to be easy. Like, I think that's the thing that we need to share with our kids. Just like Mark said, I mean, thinking outside the box, speaking numbers that you have no idea. Imagine a kid in a project and you're telling them about $1 billion, $1 trillion. So we spend trillions of dollars, but I mean, as African Americans, but do we understand what that is?
2 minutes. I'm playing producer to an event that Corey is doing. Because I got 10,000 jobs.
Sorry, please forgive Jana. She's going to mute herself. She's going to mute herself.
Okay.
So yes, I just think, and the power of words is so important, like speaking positivity over your kids, the kids in the community. I think that took me a long way. This one elderly lady said, "Bright eyes, you're gonna be a star." And I took that, and every time somebody told me that I wasn't gonna be nothing, I couldn't be successful, I've always thought of that one positive word from this elderly lady telling me that I was gonna be a star. And I think, letting our kids understand that, like I said, don't be afraid to let your kids walk with you in the bank and count money. Give them some money to count, ask them how much is that. I think those are the ways, because now kids want to buy stuff. So they need to know you need money to buy this. But like Mark said, you're gonna have to work for it. Nobody's gonna give you nothing easy. Even parents that are successful, what are your kids gonna do if you're not around? Are they gonna starve? So you also have to promote hard work to your kids. You have to show them, like people say this stuff, don't give me a fish, teach me how to fish. We really have to do that with our own kids and kids in the community. Teach these financial courses that, don't be afraid to show them our mistakes, because I think everybody want to show you the good stuff, but also show them the mistakes so they can learn from it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I just want to add on to that really quickly. For those of us who have made it, For those of us who have plenty of money and not just money, but wealth and are successful, have made it, the obligation to give back and to give back through not just giving away money, but modeling success and modeling that for younger generations is so incredibly important. So incredibly important. And for those everybody who's on today who has made it or will make it, my challenge is to continue to model for others.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that's a perfect way to wrap up this session. Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you so much, Percy and Jamie, for making this happen. We're going to have another Normalizing Black Wealth session in December. So please be on the lookout for that information from Culture Banks. And you guys have a great rest of your week. Yes, damn it.
Y'all need to take the car. It's on my dresser.